Carla and everybody. Today I'm making a squash casserole, part of my quarantine cuisine series I'm going to start. I'm starting off with squash. So squash casserole, squash, onions, some cracker crumbs, some other good stuff, and we're going to show you how to do this right now. So here's the ingredients we need to do our squash casserole. Obviously we need squash. I'm going to use a couple of eggs. Going to use some chicken broth. Different recipes call for different things. Some call for chicken broth, some call for mayonnaise, some call for evaporated milk. But this is what I've got on hand, so I'm going with the chicken broth. Going to need a nice Vidalia onion. It's going to be diced up. Going to need some nice buttery crackers to go with this. Some grated cheese. Going to add a little bit of garlic to mine. And that's about it. So we're going to get started. We're going to trim and cut up the squash into rounds, and then we're going to boil it and then cook it, and then we'll move on from there. So starting off with the squash, we're just going to trim to pieces here. Like so. Cut the neck off and cut off the butt ends. About like that. And then I'm just going to slice this to some rounds to go into the pot of boiling water. And then once it's cooked in the boiling water and we take it out, we're going to cut these up into some chunks to go into the casserole itself. So again, I'm cutting mine into fairly thick, slice little bits and pieces. Trim that little piece off right there, because I like mine chunky. But just continue on until we get all of it done, and then we'll cook them. Okay, the squash are now in boiling water. They're going to boil for about 15 minutes. Put them in some salted water just to get them to cook. I've already diced up my onion, so that's ready to go. What I need to do now is I need to make the crackers. So got these. I want to make about 2 cups of basically cracker crumbs. So grab a couple of those out. And of course, if I need to make cracker crumbs with crackers, that means it's hammer time. Alright, so crackers are all crumbled up now. Pretty easy to do with these. Hopefully that'll be enough. And always when you're doing this, save a couple of crackers for the dog, because she loves these things. Here, Polly. Here you go. Alright. So anyway, that'll keep her out of your hair for a while. So just waiting on the squash to cook now, and then we're going to start cutting that up and then assembling everything, and then we'll bake it. By the way, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees while you're waiting for the squash to cook. Okay, the squash has been boiling for about 15 minutes, so we're going to take these, I'm going to put them in a colander and drain them, and I'm going to let them cool off a bit, and then we're going to start cutting them up, and we're going to assemble all the ingredients together. Alright, time to start assembling things. I'm going to start off with the squash. Let's cool off a bit. Lots of seeds there. Actually, those will be just fine. Put some of those in there. And I want to basically roughly cut these up. Some of the recipes I read call for the squash to be mashed. And it's almost like they're trying to hide the fact that it's squash. But I happen to like squash, so I want to know that there's actually squash in there. So I'm just cutting mine up roughly with the knife while it's here in the bowl. If you want to disguise the fact that it's squash, go ahead and do that. That's your decision, but I like squash, so I'm just going to do it kind of roughly here with the knife. Then I'm going to start adding in the other ingredients. I'm going to start with 1 cup of the chicken broth, and then 2 eggs that I've beaten up, my diced onion, my cheese. That's 1 cup of grated cheddar cheese, 1 cup that was tightly packed in the measuring cup. May add a little bit more. We're going to see how this looks when I get done. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want to. I just happen to have some grated cheddar on hand. Then for the breadcrumbs, 2 full sleeves of the crackers made basically 2.5 cups. So I'm going to save a little bit of that to sprinkle on top when I get done. So now it's just a matter of, here's my spoon, give all this a good stir. Try and get everything mixed up, the egg and the cheese, everything kind of evenly distributed there. And Carl, if you need a recipe to follow, that cookbook that I gave you for Mom's, it's got Mom's recipe in it, page 97 at the bottom. The difference is that recipe calls for evaporated milk, and again, I don't have any evaporated milk, and I'm not going to run to the grocery store to buy any because I'm trying to stay at home as much as possible these days, just to keep everything safe for me. Now that I'm no longer working, which was my choice, by the way. If you don't know, I did leave my job at Lowe's, but I did not do that because of the virus. I did that because my heart condition decided to be a badass, and finally decided it was time for me to take some time off and just take care of me. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going on week number 2 now of my self-imposed exile from society, as we'll call it. Sounds better than quarantining, self-exile. I like that. So there we go. All right. Nicely mixed up. Lots of squash in there, which is exactly how I like it. So this is going into the casserole pan. Let's see if I can do this without spilling it. I have my doubts, but we'll see. Spread that out a bit. There we go. Take a little bit of these leftover crumbs here and sprinkle that across the top. Pauline thinks she's getting more, but she's already had 6, so. Found out the other night she likes Ritz crackers. We found that out by accident about 1 o'clock in the morning when I was up watching TV and needed a snack, and I grabbed a thing of the crackers, and she had to have some, so. She's funny that way. She likes to snack on whatever I'm snacking on for the most part. She loves cheese too, by the way. Especially pepper jack, that's her favorite. Which I think is weird. I don't know why a dog would like spicy cheese, but she does. So anyway, like such. Alright, going into a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. Then we'll take it out and we'll start eating. Okay, after 30 minutes, we are out of the oven. It smells great, and we're going to let this cool off for a few minutes, and then we're going to dig into it and see how it tastes. We'll be right back. Alright, so digging into this, I'm liking the big chunks of squash in this instead of it being mashed, the squash being big and chunky so I can actually taste it. That's very good. It does need a little bit of salt, which I avoided putting in there because I didn't know how salty the chicken broth was, but a little bit of salt on that. Perfect. Maybe some black pepper. Other than that, this is really, really good. So, there you have squash casserole. It's not hard to do. It doesn't take long. Save some crackers for the dog. I got some new ideas for some other recipes I want to do. If you've got any ideas or suggestions of some quarantine cuisine recipes you want me to do, drop me a comment below, or send me a message, a text message or something, and we'll see what we can do. I know I've got a green bean recipe I want to do. Guacamole, I've been craving some guacamole, so I want to do a recipe of that, and I've got to do a gazpacho recipe for you, because I love gazpacho. I make it every summer, and I've got a funny gazpacho story to tell you about Joseph. So, speaking of Joseph, he will not touch this with a 10-foot pole because it has squash and onions in it. Basically, the only thing he will eat from this would be the crackers and the cheese. So he can have cheese and crackers, I'll have the rest. So anyway, until next time, love you, Carla.